Majority of people would like to see another major major party. So the problem for Greens is getting on the ballot. This
Right.
country's off the charts. You want to run as an independent for Congress, if your party doesn't have a ballot line, takes thousands of signatures or tens of thousands of signatures. Actually, I think Kentucky's exceptional. It's easier to get on, but in New York, we need 3,500 signatures. We got 6 weeks to collect them. In Georgia, it's over 15 or over 20,000 signatures. Indiana, over 40,000 signatures. You want to run as an independent for the House of Commons in the UK, it's 10 signatures.
Mm-hmm.
You want to run for Congress in India, the world's largest electoral democracy, it's 2 signatures. And in this country, it's thousands or tens of thousands. And then when we file our signatures, in our case, the Democrats challenge us.
Right.
And sometimes it's very trivial objections just to, bog us down documenting our signatures. Like in Pennsylvania, we spent a month and then we proved our signatures are good and the Democrats dropped that objection. But they got us on a technicality that was irrelevant to what the Board of Election needed, which was Angela's address. No, it was actually the stand-in, that the petition was stand-ins before our national convention. And the woman, it was the vice presidential stand-in, sent her withdrawal form. She mailed it in rather than attaching it to the petition.
Wow.
And so the Board of Election had what they needed, because it wasn't attached to the petition. Technically, we're in violation, so we're off the ballot.
I would argue, but also speaking to your question, why do we have to be defined by 2 parties? We don't have to. But I think we've become this country, folks in this country have become so used to only thinking in terms of a duopoly that, anything else feels radical. And like Howie said, around the world, there's parliamentary systems around the world. We don't have to be defined this way. But fighting that is going to be an uphill battle and changing people's minds.
Exactly. And to your point, many of my family members were decided on voting for Biden as soon as he announced his candidacy. I think Biden and his camp played on their confidence and his confidence in Black voter turnout by consistently aligning himself with Obama, name dropping Obama every chance he could in debates and in interviews and stuff. So why do you think that many, not all, but many Black voters got behind Biden so quickly?
I think you just said it. His proximity to former President Barack Obama. A lot of us are conditioned to vote Democrat. We don't think outside of that. The Republicans, for a whole lot of us, are not an option. I think, there's a lot of rumbling around, celebrities and some of the inane things that they're saying. But by and large, Black folks in this country vote Democratic. They know that. And when they chose Biden, the folks that chose Biden understood that people are going to align him with former President Obama. He should be a shoo-in. He shouldn't have to earn the vote. This was Obama's wingman. So, and I think, any rumblings coming from Black folks, because Biden has not made, I would argue he hasn't made any gaps. He has said exactly what he thinks about Black voters. He's been very clear about that. So I think that's an intra-family discussion that Black folks is having right now.
Yes, right.
People aren't voting so much for Biden as against Trump. And Biden got the nod for a lot of Black folks once he won South Carolina and Clyburn endorsed him. And then all the Democratic leadership closed ranks behind Biden except for Sanders. And I think the signal to people was, this is the guy who can beat Trump. So I think it's more, the Republicans for Black folks is the white man's party. It's like the Klan. And so you may not be enthusiastic about Biden, but you want to get Trump out of there. I think that explains a lot of the, Black vote going to Biden. It's against Trump more than it's for Biden.
Yeah, he's a safe bet. They're putting their faith in Biden to get Trump out of office, definitely. Angela, you consider yourself a socialist, correct? Is that right? Okay. I know that conservatives love to play on certain trigger words, to rev up their base. How do you feel about aligning yourself with that term? Are you concerned about it limiting your ability to advance in politics in the future?
I'm not running for anything else electorally.
That's it.
That's that. And I think in a lot of ways, my feeling about it has always been because I ran as an independent socialist for Milwaukee County Sheriff in 2014. How can I say this? I don't do smoke and mirrors. I am a socialist. I stand on that. That is my ideology. That is the way that I think that things need to be handled. Black people in this country have a very proud history of being socialist, which a whole lot of people don't know because we've been red baited for so long that, it's not something folks really talk about mainstream. But as far as, if I'm going to run for an elected office, you need to know who you're voting for. You need to know exactly where I stand on policies. You need to know where that came from. And, I know that they've been using socialist as like a curse word or something to hit each other. The two, mainstream candidates hit each other back and forth. And, all we do is laugh because we're real socialists. It's like, y'all are nowhere near the mark. I mean, you want to talk to some socialists, we right here. But I'm not concerned with the propaganda around it.
Right.
Our job in this country is also to educate people about what socialism is, how it improves people's material conditions, and how we can align it with the needs of the planet.
There you go. There you go. I gotcha. Shifting gears a little bit, a lot of people think that there's a big problem with like hidden money in politics. Money comes in through certain ways, and lots of powerful organizations don't have to reveal where their funding comes from. So do you think there should be more transparency as far as where their money comes from?
Well, absolutely. You're talking about dark money, and both Biden and Trump are taking hundreds of millions of it. And we don't know who. Could be a foreign country, could be organized crime, could be just another billionaire doesn't want you to know where their money's going. They give it to what's called a 501c4 social welfare organization. Those organizations don't have to report to donors.
Exactly.
Those organizations can spend on politics. They can also pass it on to super PACs who say they got it from the 501c4, but they don't have to say where the 501c4 got that money. So we got hundreds of millions of dollars being flooding the campaigns into both parties. And that's wrong. But you could close the loopholes for dark money and you're still going to have rich folks buying the politicians. So what we call for is full public campaign finance on a clean money model. They do this in Arizona and in Maine for state elections. So you opt in, every candidate that qualifies, you qualify by getting a reasonable number of small $5 donations. Then you're qualified, then you run on public money, not private money. And in Arizona, you have to participate in a publicly sponsored debate as well. And that's what we would like to see, get the private money out, have a level playing field, give the candidates equal resources to speak to the voters. And that would level the playing field. And we also are opposed to this matching fund system, which is an HR 1, a bill that has a lot of good things in it, but it's a 6-to-1 match. So if you're a congressional candidate running with $100,000 that can be matched against the congressional candidate with $1 million that can be matched, you end up with 700,000, they end up with 7 million. So it actually increases the gap between the lower finance and the higher finance candidates, and also allows all the public money, private money, to continue to be donated. So when you opt into that system, it's just putting a little public money on top of all that private money they're already getting. So it's a reform that won't really reform, but they're calling that public campaign finance. And one of the things we want is real solutions, not saying we did something that doesn't solve the problem.
Yeah. Thank you. What's this election is impacting people on a global scale. We touched on it a little bit earlier. And, everyone's watching. What do you think is the hardest thing for other countries to understand about U.S. politics?
How we ended up with Donald Trump as president. I think that's what most people are wondering. How did this buffoon end up the leader, the so-called leader of the free world? And how could the Democrats put up a guy that really has trouble articulating a positive program? I mean, all he said is, I'm not Trump. When you think of Joe Biden, what reform or policy is he the champion of? It's all about Trump. I mean, I think people wonder how we can be so focused on that. And I'll just take one issue. The US has deployed new strategic and tactical nuclear weapons. They call it nuclear modernization. It's destabilized the world. 122 nations agreed to a new treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons 3 years ago. They agreed to the text. The 50th country just ratified it this week. So it goes into effect for those 50 countries. International Campaign for the Abolition of Nuclear Weapons got the Nobel Peace Prize for that achievement 3 years ago. And this has not been talked about in this whole campaign. It should be a top campaign issue. And people around the world are scared because the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist is their doomsday clock, the closest it's ever been to midnight. And a lot of people around the world are wondering, what is going on in the United States where this issue isn't even mentioned, in the whole coverage by the mainstream media and in all the presentations from the candidates, because both parties are committed to deploying these new nuclear weapons. It's grossly destabilizing, and the rest of the world is scared to death. So I think, they're wondering, why doesn't anybody raise that issue? Angela and I have been trying to, but we've been blanked out in the corporate media.
Right.
The world is also really concerned about the way that this election is going to be handled. I mean, this is an unprecedented year in 6 million different ways. And this election isn't going to be any less unprecedented. And then you've got an individual that is currently occupying the White House making really questionable statements about whether he's going to leave or respect the election results if they don't fall his way. So, Howie and I have both been interviewed by, overseas media, and that's one of the things that we've been asked, like, yo, this cat is talking about, if I don't get this, then, I might not leave office. What are y'all ready to do? So the world is most definitely watching. And I think this is going to be an election that unlike any we have ever seen before.
I agree. Excuse me. Okay, I just have one more question for you guys. What is the one thing you'd like Americans to be thinking about when they go to the ballots this year?
Well, my message would be to progressives. The campaign that Angela and I are running on, according to public opinion polling, is the most popular platform. People want a Green New Deal. They want Medicare for all. They want the cancellation of student debt and free tuition at public colleges and universities. They want to get out of these endless wars. So if you're for that, you should vote for it. If you don't vote for what you want, you settle for Biden because you want to get Trump out there, you get lost in the sauce. They don't know you want a Green New Deal and Medicare for all. And Biden will take you for granted because you didn't express your preference in the vote. The vote is your voice, it's your power. So I urge people, if they like what the Greens are talking about, to vote for us.
Well, I definitely do.
That gives us leverage, going forward. The more votes we get, the more leverage we have in the political process going forward.
Yeah.
I can, piggybacking on what Howie just said, also, I think even on a bigger scale, stop voting from a place of fear, about being afraid of what you stand to lose. How about we look forward to what it is we actually want, the kind of country we actually want to live in? Which candidates are actually talking about measures that will change the system that enables police to continually murder Black people and other people of color with impunity. You know, this is not something that, you know, the topical reforms offered by the Democrats and no reforms at all offered by the Republicans. Those things aren't going to change this system. This system is inherently flawed. And we are the only party talking about that. So, you know, but even bigger than that, third, fourth, fifth parties, you know, parties outside the duopoly, people need to start questioning why there is a duopoly. To go back to your initial question, why do we do this way? Why do we have to? Why are we allowing them to take our votes for granted and take our voice for granted? And why are we electing people who we know are not going to do what we need them to do? And then we stand back and throw our hands up and say, hey, y'all got it. I gave you my vote. And we're surprised when we don't get what we need. You know, people also have to understand politics is not a spectator sport. You're going to have to hold these people accountable. And that is physical work. You know, that's getting in the streets. That's taking over meetings. That's, you know, offering solutions in your own community when you can't get it from them, and then taking it to their doorstep that we have to do what you're not doing. So, you know, I just want people to think that, be thinking of the fact that if you have not considered before how much change is needed in the way we do politics in this country, I hope they're thinking about it now.